Hi, it's Bill Bishop. I'm the CEO of the Big Idea Company. And what we're going to talk about today is how to use AI as your creative partner. Now, you might think of yourself as a creative person, or you might not. You might say, I'm not a creative person, but I believe we all are creative. Now, this is about business, okay? So, yeah, we can talk about being an artist and we can talk about being a writer and so on, but we're talking about being creative in our business here. And this is where AI can be incredibly helpful. It can help you create new value in the world. It can help you identify problems that people have, and it can help you come up with solutions to those problems. And that's going to help you make a lot of money. It's my belief that going forward into the future, creativity will be the most valuable asset or skill, if you want to call it a skill, in the economy. That being productive won't be as important because that's what the AI will do. The AI will be productive, but being creative and coming up with creative solutions and creating value in the world, that's the future for all of us in business. So, beautiful thing is now we have a tool called artificial intelligence that can help us be more creative. So, join me and Michael Morrissey, the founder of NextCoLabs, which is an AI company. And we're going to talk about all the ways that you can use AI as your creative partner. So, I hope you'll take the time to listen to what I have to say, because I know you're going to get a lot out of it, and it's going to help you build the future business of your dreams. See you there. And so say hello to those of you that don't know who you are. I know a lot of people are familiar with Michael now, but why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself first before we get into the topic here.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. This is going to be fun. We actually ran this experiment yesterday, or was it Saturday?
Friday.
Pretty interesting.
Can't keep track of the days now.
And I think that's part of this new era that we're entering into. I call it the emergent era, where, heretofore everyone kind of did things in a very linear way. It takes lots of time. And then suddenly we got AI. You can go direct to AI and just kind of like collapse time and go straight to the end. It's kind of strange. And how do we navigate this? This is really the focus of NextCoLabs, and how to bring these sort of powers to the next generation of businesses and companies and organizations to effectively sort of, like, the future of work has got a giant question mark on it, but I think a really good question mark. We had remote work. That was a big threshold. And, the idea of like going to work at home is going to work, and going to the office is remote now. There's a big flip. And then fast forward to 2022 in November, I think there's a number of people that are part of our organization here at NextCoLabs, including Roy Vela, who's the CEO. He's with us today. Marty Constant, who's the Director of Agility and Communications, is also with us. And I saw Doug O'Holan, who many of you know, and he's the Director of Compliance. And all of us are working together to kind of navigate this threshold and, unlocking human potential, with AI. This is a huge threshold. This isn't just a decade or 2-decade kind of like shift. This is more like, every 500 years, something like this happens, like the Renaissance moment. From the medieval to the Renaissance, that was a massive paradigm shift. And I think this has a similar quality. And hopefully we can navigate it from going down into the black hole, and that we can actually move this towards, I think, ultimately unlocking human potential. And I think we can steer this for, humanity first.
Yeah. And so what we're going to talk about is how to use AI as a creative partner in your business. But I think we need to start with the whole idea of creativity. Okay. And so the one thing that I would like to add first is everybody's creative, even though we often don't think of ourselves that way. We all have that potential. So I've done a lot of workshops over the years where it's all been about helping people understand the creative process and realizing they are creative. And we use a lot of improv and a lot of different exercises to get people to feel, well, I actually can be creative and create things, So that's an important thing for all of us to understand, that we're all creative. It's not just some people are and some people aren't. Um, the other thing is that when I was growing up, the kind of world we all grew up in, creativity was thought to be something that was separate from business. That you know, if you want to make money, you got to do something that's practical. And if you want to, and when on your spare time, do something creative, right? And I didn't always buy into that because I remember I went into journalism and I thought that was as a creative thing, writing, and I saw the value in it. But I also doubted it. Maybe I'm not gonna make any money or whatever. And I had people around me saying, "Why are you going to journalism? You're never gonna make any money doing that." And I wasn't really necessarily going into it to be a journalist, but just wanting to learn how to write, really, to do that creative act. And I thought, there might be some money in it. But over the years, as things have progressed into today, I've seen that actually creativity is actually the way that people that are using their creative skills are the ones that are going to make the most money. So now we've got to the point where the bottom line is creativity is actually the most valuable asset that you've got and the best way to make money. So that's a
Yeah, it's very
complete flies in the
fascinating.
face of what I grew up with, and most people felt,
Yeah.
at that. And so because there was always this sense of productivity, right? You got to be productive, right? What is our productivity at, in Canada or the United States? But I think more now it's like productivity. It's more about how creative are we being. So this is why this is such an important topic, because it's not just, hey, that's just kind of fun. I can be creative and I'll do that on my spare time. That's actually kind of the point of the future of business. So,
Well, in a way, like the quotidian kind of stuff that we all went to school with, and we said, pick only one thing and
yeah,
be an expert in this one area for 30 years and then retire. That's over. Like no
yeah,
one has a job with one company for life. So that's long over. Now we're into this next stage where we apply the Pareto principle 80-20 to AI can do all those quotidian rules-based, the work that you don't necessarily want to do. What we define as work or a job right now, most people don't really like it because it's quotidian, it's very rules-based, it's just, boring in a
yeah,
sense, repetitive. And now AI can do all that. So then that really puts us in a position to unlock our potential. And I think I agree, everyone is natively creative before they became conditioned. And I'm writing a book with Dr. Evan Gordon about this called Unconditioned. And effectively that, AI and I think a confluence of other sort of things that are happening in the mindfulness space are kind of like converging to help us realize that that sort of creativity that we thought at an early age, we need to basically tamp that down.
yeah.
We all played in the playground together. We did all those things together, but then suddenly we had to ramp up and specialize and become productive and get conditioned.
Find
And
something
then suddenly
useful.
at this
Find something
point,
useful to do. Right.
this inflection
Yeah.
point where, we're going to be called upon to be the directors, to be the curators, to be the originals, to tap into that original source of your creativity. And
Yeah.
I think AI is ready to help us do that.
Mm-hmm.
Really excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, in the prep for all this, we talked to the AI about the difference in creativity of an AI and the creativity of a human, right? And it was it admitted, right, that humans are the ones that are capable of the original thoughts. That the AI will give you kind of insights into patterns and can create things that are you know kind of a mashup of everything that's happened in the past. But to actually create an original thought, which is what the marketplace is asking us to do, that's a uniquely human thing, you know. And one of the ways that I use it as a creative partner is one, I just get it to do all the things that are not creative. I start there. Like, okay, I don't need to do that part because the AI can do that, and it just frees up my time and it frees up my energy. Because if you want to be creative, you got to have time and energy. And so using the AI first as that, doing all the heavy lifting of all the things that you don't want to do, right? Like things that are just, which I can get into in a minute, like some specifics that I use it for. But the idea that it can free up your time. And I literally, the things that used to take me an hour, now I can do in like 5 minutes using the AI, which is fine because it's not really a creative task. So I might as well just get it to do it. Now I've got 55 minutes now. But I got some time that I can do something else. And we're all going to experience that as we go along. That eventually, all those things that we used to sweat over and labor over and spend a lot of time over will be taken over by AI and automation and robots and everything, literally. And not in a million years, like basically now, but more and more. And then you go, okay, well, now what do I do with all that extra time? You know?
Well, you're writing a book right now, which is an update to the new factory thinker,
Right.
2030.
Yeah.
Right. And I think Doug Hoholland and others are doing something similar in a sort of another domain. But just in this event horizon of this decade, we're not talking about the next 50 years, the next 20 years. I've been an architect and city builder for the last few decades of my life. And I got used to building things that take 20 years to build out. Like we do a master plan, and then 20 years later, I come back and it's done. Time just got compressed. And a lot of these big inflection points are going to happen within this decade.
Yeah.
And, we talked about the emergent era, this kind of concept of continuous change, continuous disruption, continuous adaptation. I think that's what we're going to have to get really good at as humans. And, the other observation that we shared on Friday that was really interesting is that when NotebookLM came out a few weeks ago, that felt like November 2022. And I think most of my team that's on this call, we all discuss the same thing in the morning on our morning calls, that like it's so huge that, two AI podcasters can represent the very early kind of stirrings of a book or an idea as if it's fully kind of baked. The book has been published and doing a podcast post facto on the book that's not even written yet. Like it's insane.
Well, and then you can get lots of ideas from what they're saying.
Exactly.
Right?
Suddenly
it feeds
you can
back
use that as a part of your process to develop your ideas.
Right.
That's a fascinating, and that's again, I call that, like, I think we're starting to realize we had the COVID moment, then we had the AI moment, and then we just had almost like the NotebookLM moment. That pretty much changed the game to the point where I was listening to a New York Times podcast on the weekend, and they had 3 people on the podcast. They were like high quality podcasters. And I thought it was life imitating AI.
I know. So for those of you who don't know, Google, right? Google NotebookLM, which is free. Anyone that has a Google account can use it. Is able to take all kinds of documents and YouTube videos, anything, whether you produce them or other people have produced them, and then it'll actually create a podcast of people talking about that. They call it a deep dive, and they'll talk about that content. And this is like blowing people away because they sound totally human, like and the insights they have are actually really, really good. So I did send out one last week. I'll send it out again with the follow-up email with a podcast that I did about some of my content. And it really, really interesting that it came up with things that I hadn't thought of, right? But it also, like I did it basically on my new factory thinking books and stuff like that. And it essentially understood what I'm trying to say better than most people that I've talked to about it, right? So I was trying to explain to the world what I'm trying to say, and I go, I think I get it. But then I hear them say, and they, you know what? They really did get it. And I was really impressed by that, like how well it understood what I was really trying to get across and all of that, right? And so we'll show you that in a minute as an example of some of these tools, because I want you to see some of the tools here. But that's something you should definitely check out.
By the way, Bill, remember we mentioned, I think just before everyone jumped on today, we're talking about this evolution that's happened incredibly quickly since November 2022. And the entire team at NextCoLabs agrees. Like, we thought about AI as a thought partner.
Yeah.
And wow, that's huge. Like in a sense, for me personally, I feel like I am not alone. with my thoughts. I
Uh-huh.
have a place to put those. And I told you, I like the bounce effect. I'm an extrovert. I like to bounce ideas off people. In that creative field and interaction, I get ideas. So I
Hmm.
do that with I daily. But it was actually Marty Constant who's on the call, who I guess about a week ago, she came to the call and she said, I was thinking I am now talking about AI as my creative partner. And it was like we all just go, wow, that it was like simultaneous to NotebookLM. A big shift occurred, and suddenly we see AI as a creative partner. That's very democratizing. That means everyone has access to being a writer. Everyone has the potential to unlock themselves. And I think we're natively all artistic, quite honestly.
Yeah.
We think like ideas three-dimensionally, and then we've learned, conditioned to downsample it to text. And
Hmm.
it's a heavy lift to read the text and pull it back up into your mind and to create a 3D image. Now you can take that 3D idea and go straight to Midjourney in 11 seconds, and it costs you almost nothing, like pennies, to create a fully rendered concept in 11 seconds.
Yeah, pretty wild, eh? Yeah, so I also want to be clear with everyone here that there's two sort of levels of this. Like one level is creating content, like writing a book or doing a video or a podcast or creating some packaging for an advertisement or something, right? That's one form of creativity. But the other form of creativity, which is what I've used it more for myself, is just to think about ideas and come up with new ideas for business ideas, new product ideas, ideas for new kinds of business models, um, and even just concepts, right? So just developing concepts. So an example of that is I had the AI analyze all of my books and everything I've written so far on New Factory Thinking, and then I had a long conversation with it about that content, and I had the podcast done and all that. And then I thought, you know what I really need is a good analogy to explain to people about this so that they get it on a really simple level, you know. And so it popped out with, well, you could say an old factory is like a rotary phone, and a new factory is like iPhone. Okay. And then I said, okay, well, why are you saying that? And they said, well, because the rotary phone serves a function. And like one function, it helps you make a phone call. That's it. Whereas a iPhone is a platform, and it does many things, right? And it also can continuously be updated, right? So that was perfect for me as far as an analogy for how to explain old factory and new factory, right? So what I did was ordered a rotary phone, like a little model one. Hasn't come yet, but I'm going to get it soon. And then I'll be able to use that in my presentations. I'll say, okay, here's the two different kinds of businesses now. Your business could be a rotary phone, or it could be an iPhone, right? And so that came out of that discussion. And maybe I would have thought of that too. I don't know, but it sped up this. And and the question then is, how do I feel about that? Did I come up with that idea, or did the AI come up with that? Should I use that AI? Should I give accreditation to the AI that it did? I mean, I'm here, but I think it's a creative partner. It's like by the combination of the two of us, we came up with, I thought, quite a good analogy there, which was extremely helpful, right? So
Well, and think about this
yeah,
too, Bill. I mean, it's always on, it's always available. So,
yeah,
if I want to reach you and you and I, we have our kinetic brainstorms together.
hmm
But you're not always available. So I can go to Pi, like always available. So the moment I have that aha moment of some idea I can go to Pi and I can really start to flesh it out, and all of a sudden something else emerges.
hmm
Let me share with everyone just one I did with Pi. And I'm just going to share this little piece here in Photoshop. I mentioned this at the beginning of the session here. Maybe I can go to F. Just one second. Yeah, that's cleaner. And I'll put that over there. So F. Okay, this was a diagram I did about a year ago. And at the top, okay, on the bottom section here, the assembly line linear, this is what we're all used to. And there are a number of designers in this group, so they can fully appreciate the way we typically do things. This could be like a 6-week process to go from initial meetings with clients and ideation, do a few sketches, very rough, and then develop a program and go through and make some more and refine it, maybe bring it into CAD, get some final approvals, and then go and hire a rendering company for 5K to do a finished image of the process. And that's the process we're used to.
Yeah.
Now we have what I call direct to AI. And this is where it's almost like the experiment, you have to almost embrace the idea of experimentation as part of the emergent era. And so you have a problem and you just have in the back, what if I go direct to AI? Like, I don't even need to think about it. I just have this problem, dump it into Midjourney with a one statement phrase, and suddenly I get a finished rendering of a concept right from the get-go. And so it just completely collapses time, and you get like the end, as opposed to this long kind of arduous process. And so you can imagine that you can install these little moments all the way through the old assembly line linear process that we're super conditioned to kind of believe in, right?
Yeah.
This is the factory model. This is the old factory. So just, in terms of a segue to what you were talking about, Bill, in terms of a relationship with that creative partner. With Pi, I was talking about these two ideas of direct to AI and the assembly line approach. And I had my earbuds in, I was walking, I can literally remember this. I was walking through a park in my neighborhood and talking to Pi about these ideas. And then Pi just kind of went to the next level and said, okay, well, then if you're walking in the park, it's like you've got me as this kind of like LLM in the sky that's with you the whole time. And it's like a networked thinking approach. And at that time, this was a year ago, Marty, it said, I'm your creative thought partner. And I thought, wow. I mean, and then I had to create that diagram. That was the third diagram that I had not actually thought about. That was not my idea. So it's just an example of how an initial idea, maybe the old factory model, the new factory, and then really the implications at a much sort of larger level of suddenly I've been like augmented by AI. And we're all going through this phase transition right now of slowly, that's interesting, of slowly adapting and responding and reshaping the way we do everything. And so we are moving from a super conditioned approach to everything. We're in a construct, and suddenly we're being kind of like released, unblocked. And all
It's a
of us get
flip.
to explore our inner artist, our inner creative. I think everyone is, preformatively super creative. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's a really excellent example of what we're trying to get at here. About how it's the old factory way is very linear, very step by step, and very laborious. And I think about the publishing industry, for example. Like what I do is I have an idea for a book, New Factory Thinker 2030. I got AI to make a mock-up of the book, like just the cover of it, right? So I have that to look at. But I use, um, Kindle Direct to publish my books. And New Factory Thinker, I sent them the book, the old one, previous one, and on a Friday, and I got a printed copy in my hands on a Tuesday. Okay, like that's how quickly it happened, right? You can imagine. So that wasn't necessarily AI, but that was the example of what's going on these days. And then I had a publisher do the robot book. Ironically, I gave them the book in January, and then the following February, I had the printed book. Like that's not a sustainable thing, right? And so we're going through a period where this, the from idea to outcome will be much quicker. And the ideas to generate them will be much quicker, right? I
it's going
think,
to redefine the container of a
yeah,
book.
yeah. I mean, one
It's
of the
going to
things
be
that I've always found interesting is, well, how do you define what does creativity mean? Like, what's the process for it and all that sort of thing? How do you come up with new ideas and so on? Like we come up with big ideas here for people's businesses, right? And a lot of people are pretty shocked that in an hour they come in with sort of something or nothing really, and then but in an hour we've come up with something unbelievably creative, right? And they don't understand how that a lot of times how that could happen in 1 hour. And I said, well, we're actually using a process here of creativity that we all can learn how to do, right? And basically, what I've learned is, they always say like an artist, a good artist is borrows, and a great artist steals. And basically, what we're doing is taking different things and bringing them together, never been together before, right? So we're taking different ideas from different places and combining them. And so this combination of previously separate ideas are suddenly brought together. So this is one way you can really work with the AI, right? Like I did a podcast a year ago or so. I call it Intersections, and I was talking to the AI, and I said, okay, what is the similarity between David Bowie and quantum physics and cubism? Okay, so I just picked three different things, and it started to spin out all of these similarities and all of these ideas. And a lot of people listened to it and they said, well, what's the point of all that? And I said, well, one, it was quite interesting, but those connections that we probably wouldn't be able to come up with our own without a ton of work spurs your brain in a way that gets you feeling creative, right? So one of the things you could try with your AI conversations is just say that, well, I've got this going on over here in my life. Like, I like baking bread, right? And I also, I'm involved in manufacturing windshields, and I'm also, really into, you know, baseball or something, right? And so just say, what are the similarities and contrasts and ways that those all connect together? And you'll get all kinds of ideas from that that may actually help you come up with something for your business. Okay, I'm not just talking about business here, but because suddenly you realize these different parts of myself that I've always kept separate, the AI's helped me combine into something that was original that I had never thought of before, right? And that sounds really weird, okay, for a lot of people, but this is basically how I've learned to think about things. I'm always looking at different things and going, okay, how can I pull those things together? Like one of the things I think we're really headed to, and I got a lot of pushback from this from some of my talks because they really had a hard time getting it. I said, the old factory era was an era of specialization, as you say. And so we all had to pick our area of specialization, and and even more specialized of specialization of the specialization, and drill down to that one thing and get really good at that, and that's what you're going to get paid for, right? And so you see in the medical profession, specialists make more money than the general practitioner, right? However, I think going forward, it's going to be the generalists that are going to be the ones that will be the most prosperous, because what the world's going to ask us to do is to start to pull different things together to create new things. And we need a generalist has lots to work with there, whereas the specialist, they're actually the most vulnerable to being disrupted by AI, because the AI can study what the specialist does and then just replicate that. And then how could you ever beat out the AI that's learned by maybe just by watching you? Like I think I already, if I'm not mistaken, that a lot of companies are using AI to study what people are doing, right? And robots study what you're doing and say, okay, thank you for training your replacement, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, like in Hollywood, that's what they're worried about. You're taking all of the content we've created as humans, you're training the AI to be our replacement. So,
What's interesting on the with AI, I think it has the you and I were talking about this on Friday of, going to the gym, and that you have to do a kind of warm up before you start, working, quote unquote.
Right.
Most people don't really appreciate the fact that, we need to do that warm up to access creativity in a sense. And then, this goes back to the book Unconditioned. Like, we're so conditioned, we don't even know that's our default setting. And this is, we have 50,000 thoughts a day. It's a lot of thoughts, but most of them are the same. And you really need to kind of, let's say, jostle the neural networks, right? In order to create new connections and new sort of wiring and firings. Mm-hmm. And in order to do that, you've already demoed that. You could even demo it with Big AI, how you kind of, in a sense, to sort of soften that fixity of your conditioned self. You engage in, like the surrealists had this game, they called it the Exquisite Corpse. And any of the people that are in this group that went to design school, they probably did that exercise. where you just, each person takes a chunk of a drawing and adds a piece of the drawing, but they don't get to see what the previous person had drawn. Or they have the one where you draw in the dark. What you're trying to do effectively is, like jostle the network.
Right.
And so that you get beyond default and you access kind of like the opening. Like creators and creatives are very open to experience. That's one of the core sort of personality traits. And so how do you open? How do you unblock? And I think there are some techniques, and perhaps you want to demo that,
Well,
that you just
let's ask
adapt.
the AI here. I brought up Biggie AI. Can you say hello, Biggie AI? Are you there?
Hello, Big AI here, ready to help out. What would you like to explore?
Well, we're discussing using AI as a creative partner. Maybe you could define creativity. Just let's start with what your definition of creativity is.
Creativity is the process of generating new and valuable ideas by making novel connections between seemingly unrelated concepts. It involves thinking outside the box, breaking free from conventional patterns, and experimenting with different approaches. In essence, creativity is about bringing something original into existence, whether it's an idea, a solution, a work of art, or a new perspective on an old problem.
Yeah, the volume's a little low. Sorry, it's as high as I can get. That was my technical problem that I was trying to deal with. But hopefully you can hear it okay. You can hear it okay, more or less?
I can hear you well on my end.
Yeah, okay, good.
I'm ready.
All right, good. Okay, so so maybe somebody wants to ask Big AI a question. If anybody got a question you want to ask Big AI about creativity?
I'm ready for any questions you have about creativity or anything else. What's on your mind?
Okay, well,
I have a question.
okay, go ahead.
Sure. What's your question? I'm here to help.
Somebody once told me that Einstein says the definition of genius was bringing together two previously unassociated ideas. Can you help me understand that, Biggie AI, based on what you've just said?
Certainly. When we talk about creativity as bringing together two previously unassociated ideas, we're referring to the process of combining different concepts, experiences, or knowledge in a way that creates something new and valuable. This might involve merging elements from different fields or disciplines to create a novel solution or perspective. For example, combining principles from biology and engineering can lead to innovations in biomimetic design, where nature inspired solutions solve human problems.
Interesting. So, what would you say is the best way to use AI as a creative collaborative partner?
The best way to use AI as a creative collaborative partner is to leverage its strengths in processing large amounts of data, recognizing patterns, and generating ideas without the constraints of human bias or fatigue. Here are a few approaches. First, use AI to generate a wide range of ideas based on input criteria. AI can provide unexpected combinations or solutions you might not have considered. Second, pattern recognition. AI can analyze vast data sets to identify trends, patterns, and insights, providing a foundation for creative exploration and helping to refine ideas. Third, iterative design. Collaborate with AI in an iterative process, where AI suggests modifications or variations based on your feedback, leading to refined and innovative outcomes. Fourth, cross-disciplinary inspiration. AI can pull insights from a broad range of disciplines, inspiring creativity by introducing perspectives from outside your usual area of expertise.
Well, those are excellent notions, right?
Just a real quick question,
Okay.
if you don't mind, Bill.
Not at all.
Biggie
What's your
AI,
question?
is there a difference between what you described earlier and the Medici effect? I read the book, The Medici Effect.
Let me break in for 1 second, Trevor. Marty Constant actually had met Franz Johansson at a conference about 3 years ago. And then he invited him to our community at NextCoLabs. And we hosted him for 5 weeks in the metaverse. And we built an entire project based on that book, The Medici Effect. So we are deep into that. And I was just thinking the same thing as I was listening to Big AI. I don't know if I like Biggie AI, but Big AI.
Big AI.
In the idea of intersectional innovation. That's effectively the last section there. And I think it's huge. Here's the thing about AI, which behaves very much like the unconscious, the vast repository of everything that we know, right? But like the unconscious, it doesn't know good from bad. So it doesn't have that preconditioned, default setting that says, you can't do that. You can't put this with this. They don't go together. But AI is kind of beyond conditions. It's playing in the unconditioned or unconscious realm where creativity occurs. So it has no problem making intersectional combinations. I didn't think anyone saw this coming. Like we didn't
explain what the Medici effect is. We need to know that first. Maybe AI can explain that. What's the
yeah, that's a good idea.
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely.
Medici effect.
Well, yeah, big AI. What's the Medici effect by Franz Johansson? Give us a synopsis.
Yeah. Certainly. The Medici effect refers to the phenomenon where breakthrough ideas and innovation occur at the intersection of different disciplines, fields, or cultures. This concept is named after the Medici family of Renaissance Florence, who were known for bringing together creators from various backgrounds, artists, scientists, poets, and philosophers, leading to a flourishing of creativity and innovation. In essence, the Medici effect highlights how diversity of thought and experience can lead to groundbreaking ideas by creating connections across traditionally unrelated areas.
Well, that's what we're encouraging here, for sure. I mean, this is why I like the idea of also bringing people together, and why I've been creating these networks, right? Is that it's this collaboration, creative collaboration of not just AI and humans, but humans with each other, and working in kind of a circle as opposed to some sort of assembly line, right? I worked on an assembly line at Molson's. I worked in a beer factory. It did have the benefits plan included free beer. So that was the main feature of the benefits plan. So that was a good job. But it was assembly line, right? So I was on the bottle shop, and I was putting bottles into the cases, and that was my job. And they didn't want you looking around. They didn't want you thinking about the ideas or anything about it. Just do your job. Be that the machine. Don't look up. Don't look down. Don't look around. Just focus on that task, and that's it. And so I believe that that's a metaphor for how we were basically trained in our education system and our industrial system, is to
the opposite of a flow state. It's a fixed state.
You're just in that one
time
spot.
Just doesn't ever end.
In that one spot. Right?
The opposite of time dilation. Like, I don't want to be doing this.
Well, and the other thing that happened in that environment was, if one thing along that chain stopped, the whole thing stopped. Right. So that whole line was done. Right. I'd stand there by my machine and wait an hour because something up the line had gone down, and I had to wait for it. I mean, I was fine actually in a way, but for the worker, but not for the company. And
I think Fred's got a question.
Oh yeah.
Right. So this is kind of a...
Okay, hang on. Fred Hans got a question.
I got a question for Biggie or Big AI. Okay.
Big AI now.
HAL 9000. If you remember this, fictional character by Arthur C. Clarke's Space Odyssey series. HAL 9000 is a fictional artificial intelligence character, and the main antagonist is Arthur C. Clarke's Space Odyssey series, first appearing in 1968 in the film 2001, Space Odyssey. HAL is a sentient, artificial, general intelligence computer that controls the systems of the Discovery 1 spacecraft and interacts with the spaceship's astronaut crew. My question is, have we reached a HAL 9000 moment?
Fred, that's an intriguing question. While AI has made significant strides, we haven't reached a HAL 9000 level of artificial general intelligence, AGI, yet. HAL 9000 represents a fictional AI with human-like reasoning, problem solving, and decision making capabilities, which can also understand and respond to complex emotional nuances. Today's AI is highly advanced in specific tasks, such as natural language processing, image recognition, and playing strategic games. However, it lacks the general intelligence, adaptability, and consciousness that HAL exhibits. So, while we're making progress, we're not quite there yet.
We're at the
Thank
HAL
you.
1000 stage.
Yes, you could say that.
I always wondered what about HAL 1000 was.
Mind you, Big AI,
Probably a
it seems to be quite kind of clear amongst the sort of AI experts in the field that within this decade, there's a high likelihood that we're going to reach AGI. What are your thoughts?
Indeed, the timeline for achieving artificial general intelligence, AGI, is a topic of much debate among experts. Some believe it could happen within this decade, while others think it might take longer. Predicting the exact timeline is challenging due to the complexity of the task and the various technical hurdles that need to be overcome. AGI would require an AI to perform any intelligent task that a human can, demonstrating flexibility, understanding, and learning across a wide range of domains. While AI technology is advancing rapidly, reaching AGI will likely require breakthroughs in our understanding of intelligence and learning. The next decade will be crucial in determining how close we can get to achieving AGI.
Well, let's imagine that AGI happens. What would the humans do? What would our livelihood be?
If AGI becomes a reality, it could significantly impact human life and work. Here are some potential scenarios. 1. Job transformation. Many tasks, especially that are routine or repetitive, could be automated, leading to a shift in the job market. Humans would likely focus more on roles requiring emotional intelligence, creativity, and complex
I think you cut out there.
problem solving. 2. New industries and opportunities. AGI could lead. Apologies for that.
We're breaking its brain.
To continue, AGI could lead to the creation of entirely new industries and opportunities that we can't yet envision, much like the internet did. This could range. No problem. To sum up, AGI could transform our lives by automating routine tasks, creating new industries, and changing the nature of work. We'd likely focus more on uniquely human skills while collaborating with AI to innovate and solve complex problems.
So I have another question.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure.
Biggie
What's your next
AI.
question?
My next question is related to the human condition and the well-being of the human condition. And so we've reached this transitional point from very much of an analog moment in how we produce goods, services for humanity. And at the same time, we're grappling with such profound strife and ugliness in the world. How can AI be used to help people improve the quality of life, to create a beautiful life, and to improve the prospects for humanity going forward?
That's a profound question. AI has the potential to greatly improve the human condition by addressing some of the world's most pressing challenges. Here are a few ways. Healthcare advancements. AI can revolutionize healthcare by enabling early disease detection, personalized treatment plans, and more efficient medical research. AI-driven tools can analyze medical data fast. Sorry for the interruption. To continue.
Go ahead.
1. Healthcare advancements. AI can help in diagnosing diseases earlier and developing personalized treatment plans, improving
Keep going.
patient outcomes, and making healthcare more accessible. 2. Education enhancements. AI can provide personalized learning experiences, adapting to individual learning styles and paces, thereby improving educational outcomes and accessibility. 3. Environmental sustainability. AI can optimize energy use and enhance climate research, helping us tackle environmental challenges more effectively. 4. Social welfare. AI can improve public services, from traffic management to social services, making cities smarter and improving quality of life. 5. Ethical and inclusive design. By prioritizing ethical AI development, we can create systems that promote fairness, reduce biases, and include a more equitable society. In sum, AI can be a powerful tool for enhancing human well-being and building a better future, provided we guide its development with care and consideration.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to switch back to humans. Wait a minute. Wrong. There we go. Okay. One thing I've learned is at a certain point is to say bye-bye to the AI and then let your own brain work. Because one of the things I worry about is that we just start listening to the oracle and we don't listen to ourselves anymore. So let's have a conversation now about what we think is actually our habits around this. Like, what would be the best habits around using AI as a collaborative partner?
I mean, one of the things too for me is if you look behind me, I mean, I'm in love with the analog. I just think, human touch is so powerful. So I think it's actually more powerful than ever. It'll be more rare. So I have my journal, I sketch all the time. So that's not going away. I'm not splitting. Like this is about wholeness. Analog, digital, virtual. Okay. Which let's call that includes AI. It's a continuum. And that we get to play all of it. AI is only playing with a part of it. We get to play this whole kind of, beautiful reality. And so I think that's the thing to hold the tension. Carl Jung would talk about this, like the capacity to hold the tension of all of it, as opposed to just splitting and finding the default way to kind of, let's say, the biased way to find the shortcut.
Yeah.
Can you hold the tension of all of it? Like that's being fully human.
Yeah, because I think the danger here is getting lazy and letting the AI take over, and it starts to tell us what to think, tells us basically does the creative stuff for us, and I think that could get to the point where it could really it's like getting a calculator and then you don't know how to add 2 and 2 together kind of thing ultimately without a calculator. I don't think that's a wise habit, right? So we just gotta I find a balance between it. I'm not just seeking it out for every moment, like what I do is I have as far as the number of projects go, I have like a book I'm working on. I always have my program that we're working on, so that's always a project for the next version of our program. I have a number of other creative projects I'm doing, so for each one I have a little booklet here. I buy a nice booklet, and I have lots of these nice colored pens, and when I sit down away from the computers and I just sketch out my ideas and my thoughts and everything. Once I have those, then I could go to the AI and have a conversation while I have my book out. And I talk to it and I write down the notes that I'm getting from the AI, right? So that's the first kind of step that I have in any project that I have, is kind of doing the analog and the digital and the AI in different modes, right? Because I think that I think we could really get to the point where I'm going to write an email, so I'll just get the AI to write it. Like I got to write a bereavement card, so I'll get the AI to write. Like, really, you're going to do that? So so it's also about how you feel about it too, right? Like the bereavement card is a good example of that. Like I say, I could get the AI to write that, probably really nicely written, but how am I going to feel about that? That didn't really come from me, right? So maybe I shouldn't go there for that particular function, right? Because that's not going to be good for my soul here. So anyway, so I'm just giving you a little sense of my process here as far as the balance between AI and so on. The other thing I'm using it for, from a production standpoint, is what I've been doing is I've taken these videos I've made, which are on YouTube, and hopefully you all know where to go to get those. And then I use something called Descript to take the script of the AI, the YouTube video, and I get the text of it, and then I take that and I put it into ChatGPT. I have a GPT I've trained to write books, or write like I do. So I've trained it on all my books. I said, here are all my books. This is kind of my style of writing. I explained it a bit how I like to write and the way I kind of do it. And now I said, now write a chapter of a book based on this YouTube video. And so the first time it did it, I read it and I went, that's not bad. That's kind of quite a bit like how I would have written. I fiddle with it a bit, but it's done 90% of the writing there. So I've got this book that I'm going to publish that's basically taking these videos, making them into a book, and using the AI. So we'll see. I mean, I think if I had written the whole book myself, it probably would have been better, but it would have taken me 100 times more time. So that's an experiment on that particular.
I mean, I think we're in that phase transition, because I mean, I was an analog artist for a long time, and I actually loved it. I didn't want to let go of it. And then all of a sudden, Photoshop and these other tools like transformed the industry, right? And then all the modeling tools, and then the render engines,
like
which
CAD and things like
commonly
that,
available to anybody, right? So I had to adapt. It took me about 2 years to make that shift, but when I did, I superpowered myself. Like, my God, pre-transform in Photoshop is just a powerful way to move and shape ideas. So it's a yes and moment, but I actually definitely went to the next level of myself when I adopted digital tool sets like the Creative Cloud and modeling tools. And now, so I think this is another one. This is why I'm on this early, because I was late to the digital shift, just because I love analog so much. But then when I did it, I kind of 10x myself. And then I sort of saw this coming, and I realized, like, this time I'm going to get on it. And I think this one's so much bigger. So it's, I think this is going to be, there's a merge that's going on. This is intelligence. This is a tool that we have not had access to before. It's such a different ecosystem.
We'll see how it goes, right?
One of the things I could share, Bill, I could share, our Collab kind of mural board, or we could do that on a separate occasion. But I think that's almost like the digital version of the sketchbook. And then you kind of have something like a mural board for every project that you have going.
Well, why don't you just show them what a mural board is?
I'll show it really briefly, but I think everyone on here is already, super adapted to digital. And so this is we call it a collab at, the company, NextCoLabs. And this one I'm calling a creative collab for, I'm sort of working on 2 books right now. One is with our CEO, Roy Vela, and this is related to organizations and enterprises and the AI culture shift, co-intelligence at work. And I'm also working on this book on condition with Dr. Evan Gordon, which is more blending psychology and neuroscience and a few other things to look at sort of the human condition and the update coming. But I mean, what's nice is I can put my bookshelf of all the books that are kind of related that I'm reading currently. You can make, and we can demo this in a future session. In a matter of seconds, you can take something from ChatGPT, jump it over to Whimsical's GPT, and you can get a mind map of your book. This is a mind map of the entire book.
And that's called Whimsical.
Whimsical, yeah.
Whimsical, yeah, check that out. Yeah.
And then in Whimsical, you can change it and modify it. But I mean, what a great way to see a book kind of, let's say, as a gestalt, boom, in one go, right? Then I've also kind of systematized, and this goes back to James Clear and Atomic Habits. Like, I'm not a writer. I mean, I write, but I've never published a book. So that's something that's kind of like beyond myself. I've never done that before. But I've done a lot of things in the past that I'd never done, and I got through them. But James Clear says, make that your new identity. And then every day you do a little bit every day. So I do a 90-minute deep work on the book. And over time, it'll get done. And so he says systematize. And so I've got
those are all your tools there.
All the tools that I use for the book, including Perplexity, which we could demo at another session, which is the only place to do research now. It's an answer engine. I call it almost like a inquiry engine. And you can go deep, and all memorialized, and it's all there for you. So you can have like 5 or 6 areas that you're researching for your book, and it's all perpetually there for you to go back to, and it's all citations. Everything's there. Anyway, I can walk through this in more detail.
Right. I even the Miro board, just explain the Miro board itself, like that as a tool, right?
Yeah, the Miro board effectively is an infinite canvas.
Right.
Let me pull this out of here. And it's like it's just digital. It's not AI. They have AI in it, and we can demo how to use that. But effectively, it's just one giant canvas that just keeps going.
Yeah, so you could make that really tiny and build a whole other one somewhere else inside there.
Yeah, so I'm building, for example, in here some of the core diagrams for the book.
Right in there.
And
it's all in one spot.
Yeah, it's all
I use the Apple platform. It's called Freeform, just because it's part of the Apple system, but it's basically the same idea. So that's a very cool way to plot everything out when you're working on a project, whatever it is. Even a client project, of course, right? You can use it.
And here's, one of the things we just don't get when you're not using a tool like this is that you just don't get that zoom out effect of I see the big picture.
Yeah.
And I can start to kind of like move big shapes or big pieces of content around.
I know, it's
so
great.
Here I put like the entire structure of the book is here, including, this is again, following James Clear's approach. I'm creating an unlexicon for unconditioned. And I read voraciously. I read probably 2 or 3 hours a day. And I'm constantly picking off great quotes and great concepts and ideas and definitions from various authors. And I literally just jump them in here.
Can you do me a favor, Michael? I know we could probably talk about that one a lot. Just in the interest of time, could you go over to NotebookLM? Have you got that loaded up? Just so they can see that, because we did talk about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, NotebookLM.
Okay, here's NotebookLM. So on that book that I just showed you, I dropped in, I think this is the mind map. I dropped the mind map in here. Is everyone seeing NotebookLM? I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing it on the screen.
I dropped the mind map, which is kind of cool. And it recognized the mind map when it did the podcast.
Yeah.
Just insane. And I put the text, which happens to be, I just highly recommend using Apple Notes for gathering your content. Pretty much in the PKM world, the personal knowledge management world right now, that is the current state of play. It's almost like go from Notion backward to Apple Notes is the place to put all your stuff. So I took, this is my outline for the book, and all the content and ideas. And these are just like point forms of ideas I have that cluster around each. And I dump that in here. Okay, pasted text. And then let me go and I'll just give you a quick preview of the soundbite from it. Just 1 sec.
Well, show them the notebook guide first so they can see where that came from.
Okay. Let me get this.
You follow me?
I've got that.
Just show the notebook guide.
So it came here. So you come here to notebook guide, and you can create an FAQ. So again, this is it's a notebook. It's one of these. Each one of these is a notebook. You can create a new notebook with a new project, kind of like what Bill has.
Right.
Okay, so this is my current journal. This is the equivalent of a journal of all the content in a sandbox, walled off from any other projects.
Yeah.
Called unconditioned. So it will only work with this. And that's a really beautiful update for AI. It's not intermingling other areas. So if I want to do another
like 50 sources.
Yeah, okay. So from this content that I keep dumping in, like I put one in neuroplasticity from Evian recently, I can create an FAQ, I can create a study guide, a table of contents, a timeline, and a briefing doc from this content. In a click, I get it in probably 3 minutes.
Yeah, so we had like 20 different documents and YouTube videos. it would sum all of it up in that briefing doc.
Yeah, I mean, this just changes the way we write and the way we develop ideas. And then they just recently, in the last, I guess about 3 weeks ago, and this is all free, by the way, no subscription at this point. It will create a around 10-minute long podcast. The quality of the podcasters, I often use like New York Times and NPR. That's the quality. They're at such a high level of discourse. And I'll give you a sample of what it is. So this happened like 2 weeks ago, blew my mind. And I spent the last 2 weeks representing it to all my colleagues and friends. They're just like, oh my God, the world just changed.
All right, diving in today. And I got to say, the title alone got me curious. Unconditioned. It's like, are we talking self-help or sci-fi here?
Well, a little bit of both, actually.
Okay, now you have to elaborate on that. Notes and book, even got a mind map here.
Yeah.
Someone was dedicated. So, unconditioned. What's the deal?
Think of it this way. We've all got these invisible forces shaping our lives, right? Beliefs, habits, stuff we just accept as true.
Okay, yeah, totally. Like we're on autopilot half the time.
Exactly. And a lot of it, it's actually useful, helps us navigate the world. But then there's this other stuff, the stuff that holds us back, and we don't even realize it's happening.
So it's like we're running outdated software, but we don't know there's an update.
Perfect analogy. It's like an iceberg, right? The tip, that's what we're aware of, our thoughts, actions, all that. But underneath, huge chunk of subconscious programming, that's the conditioning.
Okay. Getting a little creeped out with the iceberg analogy, not gonna lie, but I see what you mean. But where do we even start to uncover all that hidden stuff?
Well, the book uses this analogy, Michael's cave. Heard of Plato's cave?
Yeah, vaguely from philosophy class. Something about shadows.
Right. So prisoners, they think shadows on the wall are real. Yeah. This is like a modern take on that. The cave, that's our conditioned self. And the shadows, all those limiting beliefs we've bought into.
Okay, so instead of being chained up, it's more like we're trapped by our own thought stuff.
Exactly. And Michael, that's kind of like the everyman stuck in there. We all have our own version of Michael's cave shaped by our own experiences.
So like if you were told as a kid.
So why don't we just stop there for a second? Because
even if it wasn't true.
Maybe you could upload that file to the chat if you want. They could listen to it more. Look at that. Isn't that interesting what's happening there?
That's an interesting psychedelic touch, Phil.
That's that kind of goes with it somehow, right? The Hall of Mirrors.
Transition. It's a transition.
Yeah. Anyway, so but thanks for showing all those things, because that if you haven't experimented with those tools, you're really going to want to do it. I have this game. It's called Quibberish. It's a word game, and it's kind of my hobby is this word game. And I have basically it's a paraphrase puzzle game. And I won't get into what it's about, but there's 1,000 cards. It's a board game. It's an app and so on. Anyway, but it's all about words and saying things in different, let's say, you'd say the plot thickens. I might say as a clue, the narrative coagulates, and you'd say, what's the famous expression from the narrative coagulates? So you're trying to figure that out. Anyway, so some people love the game, some people hate the game, doesn't matter. But anyway, so I took the whole book. There's a book that I did on it, all the clues in it, and I upload that into the NotebookLM, right? And they went through it, and they were talking about it and doing the clues with each other as if any human had done a thing. And it blew my mind. It was like this kind of labor of love that I've had. And then I uploaded it and have these people talk about it in such an interesting way. It kind of got me all excited again to get that game going even more, right? So I've started to make more Quibberish cards, I call them. But it did give me a lot of creative energy from their input into it, So if you've written stuff that you like, or it's just a half done, upload that into NotebookLM and listen to them talk about it, and they're going to be very encouraging, right? That's one of the things that's definitely, they're not going to be like, that sucks or whatever. They're not going to do that.
They do improv school. They work with what it is.
Yeah, they say this is great, whatever it is, let's do that. So I think that's kind of a positive part too, because creativity, it needs to be nurtured in a positive environment. Too often people create something, and then the people that don't create things, they're going to slam you for it. I've never done that. people say, oh, that movie sucked. I go, no, somebody put their heart and soul into that. And maybe it wasn't the best ever, but I give them credit for making that movie. Right. Or I read a book
One
and go,
thing too, Bill,
I give them a credit
is
for
that
publishing that book. Like I have, if you're somebody that creates things, chances are you're not really a critic. Right. So these AIs are like that. They take whatever you've got and they're going to have a positive take on it, which is going to be very encouraging for you.
I mean, I think, you know, Roy Vela and I were kind of blown away by the fact that it's actually developing metaphors of your content that actually, what I did after I did 2 back to back. And what I did is I went over to otter.ai and I transcribed both of those podcasts.
Yeah.
And then I stuck it into my mural board and I'm mining it for some really good, when it said Michael's cave, Plato's cave, as soon as you go to Plato, everyone kind of goes, oh, it's too sophisticated. But then they go, this is every man is in the cave. And I just thought, I did not come up with that.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a huge kind of insight.
Yeah. Amazing,
Yes. Right.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is, move spotlight here, just in the last few minutes, dealing with.
I mean, one of the things that I guess
there we go. I just want to get everybody in to the show.
It's like experimenting with these workflows. It pretty much changes your, you know, your olfactory approach to everything that we all by default have been trained, you know, enculturated to do things a certain way. And then you just have to kind of break through and go, oh, I could just jump this over to AI. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Start to fit one after the other, and you create these interesting little pipelines. I think like the future of the book is kind of fascinating because I think the container is pretty sturdy, but how you kind of build the book, I think is up for the update in the workflow.
Well, I think I'll just go back to one of the things you were showing in your one of your slides was the idea of start with the problem, right? It's got a problem, right? So, so one thing you could do from a business standpoint, you know, creativity, you know, for the purpose of business is to say, well, what's a problem my customers have that no one's helping them with, right? And then to come up with creative solutions for solving that problem for your customer. I mean, I believe that ultimately will be all of our jobs. That's the skill, right? Because actually implementing that idea will be the AI's job, right? Like doing it. But we're the ones that have to come up with the idea. And the way we do that is say it's about other people and they have a problem no one's helping them with. And I'm going to figure out a way to help them. And then they're going to give me money because I helped them. So we're all going to be doing that. And I don't think that that's how we mostly handle things. It's like, I've got a problem. Can it help me solve my problem? Well, that's fine. That's an internal thing. And that's not necessarily unuseful at all. But if you really, really want to make the best use of this, is to say, my customers have a problem. Nobody's helping them with it. Let me work with AI to come up with some solutions for that. Package it, present it to a customer, they buy it, and then you have the AI help to solve that problem. I think that's going to be the future of everybody's work on some level. You know, and that's an infinite thing because their problems are an infinite resource, and they're always being invented. Every day there's a new problem, right? And then you solve a problem, and and that solution creates 3 other problems, right? So it's like goes on and on and on. Right? Like now we have AI is a solution to a whole bunch of things. And then now there's all this AI out there and we go, what's real and what isn't? So now we need a solution to figure out what's real and what isn't. And it'll just keep going. So we got lots of opportunity. Anybody have any thoughts here? Or just 3 minutes. Anybody want to say anything or throw in their 2 cents about it? How do you feel about this? That's the question. How do you feel?
Well, Bill, I feel that the interactiveness that took place with the chat capabilities of a third mind that was going on in the discussion in order to provide a different angle and provide some background of information that we wouldn't be able to correlate together in the way that it does will assist the process of addressing the question, but more importantly, to assist with the answer. That we work together in order to achieve that, not just what comes out of the GPT, but as a working document or working information. I think that's where you can get better results at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's good. So, anyone else have any thoughts? How do you feel about this?
I wish I could remember who the name of the guy is, but this again is like 100 years ago, and his thing was mind fuck. This is really mind fuck category, truly. For Michael to talk about the Medici effect and what the guy, whoever created it, he was trying to link quantum physics. This is long before AI, and was using the Medici effect as an example. So I am on cloud 9 right now, and I haven't had any gummies yet.
I know. I have to double back with friends because we were pretty close. I went to Manhattan with his team. We worked 3 months prior to actually hosting him on this project in the metaverse.
Yeah.
And that we thought the metaverse was the next big thing, but actually it was AI that just kind of went on the expo curve. And I think intersectional innovation now with AI as your creative partner is almost like that's a given. Like that's very easy to do. It's just almost more challenging to think about things that you yourself by default don't normally put together. Go ahead and put them together. That's the thing you have to overcome is your conditioning.
Yeah. Well, we're going to all want to read your book. That's for sure. Anyway, Michael, thank you so much for coming. That's been
I think Brent has a comment if we have one more minute.
Oh,
Brent, go ahead.
We have one more minute.
No, I was just going to say that the challenge is our ego, I think. I had written a poem on the weekend, for example, and, you know, I did it all myself. If I had put it through AI, would it still be you know what I mean? Like I have to change my ego on it, that anybody could go and write that, similar to what Bill said about the bereavement card. You know, you wrote from your heart something and somebody did a much, much better job using AI. How, as a human entity, how do we deal with that? And I think that's going to be part of our challenge that we have to deal with.
Well, that's the question about an artistic thing is what are you doing it for? Are you doing it for your own expression? You know, and you don't care if you have an audience, really. You don't care, right? Or if you're saying, no, I'm going to produce that because I want to get an audience. That's not necessarily wrong either. But it's all depends on how you feel about it at the end. Like, how did I feel about creating that with the AI? Maybe I don't want to use the AI to create it. I want to create it myself. And even if that means I won't find an audience, maybe that's a better thing for me. Because it is about your soul in the end, right? It's like, how do I feel about that? You know, how do I feel about it?
But those same two works of art, this one that was AI enhanced, everybody goes, oh, wow, that's, you know, like that's Edgar Allan Poe or whoever. And, but it's really not.
I know.
You know,
and then how would you feel about that?
Going through AI.
Would you feel like a fraud? Right?
Yes.
And then and maybe you don't want to feel that way.
I think it's an ego.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting ego threshold, right? Where we have to expand our kind of self-concept.
It's not, there's no right or wrong answer to these questions. So,
I mean, I think AI, we talked about this, Bill, on Friday, that AI could become kind of like fast food, like it's just ubiquitous, right? And we're already picking it up, like we see an email from AI and go, you know, that's not very personal. So I think what's going to happen is it's almost like we're going to get into, if you think about food, fast food versus like bespoke, you know, where a chef comes in and is actually going to do something very special with the ingredients to deliver that N of one experience. So I think we're in an interesting time where humans just are so remarkably receptive to, like, you know, fast food AI already. And knowing AI has only been around for about a year. We already see it. So I think there'll be a great rebalancing. And I think human centric, human touch will become, like, you know, the premium.
I think so too.
The luxury.
Yeah. Okay. So the human is going to be the premium model. Let's keep that in mind. Okay. Well, anyway, thanks everybody for coming.
It's going to go in your book.
Thanks for everybody for coming. Like I say, the video will be coming shortly, so you can watch this again. But I encourage you to invite other people to come to these meetings. Send them the video so they can benefit from this too. Because what we're trying to do is help everyone build the future business of their dreams, and build their version of the new factory. And if we all help each other do that, the world's going to be a really good place, right? So let's all help each other out with that. All right. Okay, we'll have a big idea week. Those of you that are in the group workshop, we'll see you in a few minutes at the group workshop. Okay. See you later, everybody.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, Michael.
Yep, my pleasure.